Hello, this is my 5. Wave, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Zany, wave. Good boy. All right. Today, I'm talking to you to inform you about sensory processing disorder. Imagine living in a world where everything is constantly too loud, too bright, too intense, or not intense enough, too dull. What if odors caused you to be sick, textures caused you to constantly gag, and you had no control over it? What if the whole world around you was simply not meant for you, not meant for how you felt? And every day, every moment, something was causing your 5 senses, your taste, your sight, your touch, your hearing, your smell, to go into overload. With children with sensory processing disorder, deal with this every day. Their lives are a torrent of different sensory input things. From a smell that you wouldn't think was intense would be overwhelmingly intense for a child with sensory processing disorder. My youngest child has dealt with this disorder since she was a very, very small child. And this special child has opened my eyes to the staggering effect this disorder not only has on the child, but it also has on the family entirely. Sensory processing disorder is vastly growing, and we're getting more and more knowledge about this disorder. And you will most likely run into somebody who has it to one extreme or another. So I'm now going to inform you about what sensory processing disorder really is. First, let's talk about what it is. What is sensory processing disorder? Whatever your senses are sending to your brain through your nervous system is sensory processing. You touch skin, your nerves are sending that process, that feeling to your brain, and your brain is interpreting it to smooth or rough or whatever it is. This includes reactions the body has. It's sensory input. When you touch a hot stove and you jerk away, that is your reaction to the sensory input. When you smell something really good and your mouth starts to water, that's sensory input, and then your brain and your body's reacting to that sensory input. From rubbing a soft kitten to eating spicy tacos, our bodies are constantly sending sensory information through our nervous system from our brain, and then from our brain to reactions. Typically, our nervous system and brain react appropriately ways. When you touch a stove, you jerk back. When you smell something good, your mouth waters. According to Psychology Today, sensory processing disorder is defined as a condition when sensory signals don't get organized through the brain and the nervous system in the correct way, and the reaction is not a correct reaction. Instead of an odor that is usually pleasing to the sense of smell, it's to the point where it can make a child who has sensory processing disorder gag or even throw up. Imagine sending your email to a friend, and you type in their email address, but maybe you add an extra letter, or you take out another letter, and you click send. You've done all the steps, but you've left something out, or you added something in. And that's kind of like what sensory processing disorder is that your brain, the child's brain, actually is either too underwhelmed, like they put their hand on the hot stove and they don't move their hand because their nervous system isn't telling their brain that it's hot, even if it is hot, or really overwhelmed where a hand dryer or a toilet flushing will send a child into hysterics. That's what sensory processing does. This is what happens to kids with this disorder. Their nervous system cannot appropriately send the information to their brain and body. Sensory processing disorder is also linked to other kinds of problems. According to specialneeds.com, that sensory processing disorder is often linked to other conditions such as autism and ADHD. It's more common than you realize. The Sensory Processing Foundation states that 1 in 6 children have SPD, sensory processing disorder related symptoms that affect their daily life. Now that we know what it is, let's look at the symptoms. Sensory processing disorder has a very broad spectrum of symptoms because it can be auditory, taste, smell, touch, sight. All of these are affected by sensory processing disorder, maybe too extreme and maybe not too extreme. SensorySmarts.com states that out of proportion reactions to touch, sound, sights, movements, tastes are a sign of SPD. Bothered by clothing or tags or fabric, distressed by touch or experiencing touch, dislike getting messy, very sensitive to sound. My daughter would physically shake and cry at the sound of the toilet flushing. Or unusually high or low pain tolerance. There are many more because our senses are always picking up new things and our brains are always processing new things. The key, though, is to be aware of extreme reactions. Example, my daughter was outside and a motorcycle drove by and she went into a complete panic state. She was running and she didn't even know where she was going. That's an extreme reaction. Sensory Smarts also states that the motor skills, oral motor skills, and feeding problems are also a sign of SPD. Fine motor delays such as writing and coloring or grasping, low or very high muscle tone, picky eating, and speech delays are all symptoms. What can be done to help a child with SPD? There are many ways to help a child with SPD. Occupational therapy is the most common treatment for SPD kids. It's play-based and helps children begin to learn the tools they need to cope and deal with SPD. Some of the things that you have during your occupational therapy this is what we actually had made for my daughter. We have activities when she needs to calm down and she's getting too much sensory input, like heavy work, a comfy corner, water bottle drinking, rocking or rolling up in a blanket like a tortilla. Or when she can't get focused, we have wheelbarrows, fidgets that she can move around, writing on her board, chewing gum. Or if she's not getting enough sensory input and she can't get going, we have rolling in logs, doing action songs, peanut rocking, hoppy ball. All of these help her. Now, if my daughter's having a particularly hard time with something, I ask her, okay, we need to get going. And she can pick some of these activities that we have done through our occupational therapy, and it actually helps her get going or get focused or to calm down if she's had too much sensory input. Also, if you have children who have feeding problems or speech problems, we have these things called chewies. A lot of kids who have sensory processing disorder actually chew on a lot of things. They have very oral focus. And this is actually a completely safe chewy that they can have around their neck, and it's not going to break off, and it's antibacterial, and they can actually use this to chew to help them cope if they're sensory overloaded or not. All right, as parents, we are our children's voice. If you suspect your children might have SPD, talk to your child's doctor. Be their advocate. Be their voice, because you're the only one that's going to be their voice. You know your child better than anybody else. So speak up. Talk for them. My beautiful daughter feels, hears, sees, tastes, touches this world very differently. She is just one face of SPD. Can you wave? She's one face of SPD and one voice. Speak up for those who need you the most. Speak up for sensory processing disorder. I went way over, didn't I?